The BMW 5 Series, a stalwart of the luxury sedan segment going for 8 generations. This one, the 550e, is one of the newer trims. It's a plug-in hybrid that's borrowing some of the technology from the M5. Doesn't have 700 horsepower, but it's offering a lot of efficiency and a whole boatload of technology that's going to take you a long time to learn. Let's go for a drive. The 5 Series was brand new in its 8th generation for the 2024 model year. It hasn't undertaken the Neue class look of new BMWs like the new iX3 or the brand new X5. That is coming, and there'll be even different screens in the years to come. As it stands, there's already a lot going on with this 5 Series, a whole lot to relearn, and a lot to like. The last generation 5 was one of my favorites. I think it balanced everything from classic BMW proportions to some modern elements really well. So it's taken me a few years to warm up to this 5 on the exterior design. However, I like it now. It's an elegant car. Everything is a lot flatter and more flush, including the door handles. The blunter front end, though, that is a big departure from the last one because the kidney grills are now much taller. They're also outlined in LEDs because that's what everybody's doing now, but it's not too ostentatious. Not like what you'll find from Mercedes-Benz with stars all over the headlights and the grille. The 5 Series is actually one of the most elegant cars now in the segment. The Audi A6 certainly doesn't look like that anymore, but the Genesis G80, I think that is the top one, and we've reviewed that one. But back to the 5. If you're getting this one, the 550e, you're gonna notice there's no exhaust tips. It's a plug-in hybrid. And the back of the car is also pretty nice. I like the fact that the lights are thin, it's recognizable, and if you can't tell, it's a 5 Series. It says 5 right here on the back of the doors. Those doors, however, don't have any proximity sensors on the rear handles, so if you've got luggage or you're putting your kids in the back, you gotta touch the front and then touch the back. The last 5 had that convenience, so certain things are going a little downhill for BMW. But what isn't? The wheels and the tires. Staggered size Pirelli P0s on this M Sport model. You're getting the bigger brakes with the blue brake calipers. Slight upgrade there. Really nice wheel designs. BMW is so intricate there. And all the proportions on this car, from the hood to the belt line, all of it really to how the car's sitting, even without air suspension, it looks great. Plus, on this model, there's 4-wheel steering, so the wheels in the back will turn in opposite directions to aid with parking. 5 Series has a nice design to the interior, but the more you dig around, the more you realize this is a downgrade, not just in the luxury segment, but among the last generation 5. Here's the good parts. The crystal controls on the center console, the really crisp and clear screens, the texture of the aluminum trim. But everything else, these light bars, the way they're plasticky, that looks kind of bad. Even the lower recesses of the dash, the door panels, they're hard. Surfaces are rough. You don't even get leather as fully standard. You have to upgrade. And these seats don't even look as good, nor are they as comfortable as previous 5 Series. If this is what luxury looks like in 2026 from BMW, I'd hate to see where they're going to be in 2030. They definitely need an upgrade and need to go back to where they were. Unfortunately, the back isn't all that much better. Just look at the seat backs. There's not even mat pockets to put anything in. This is really hard, hollow plastic. These seats are flat. Now, I'm complaining a lot because the last generation 5 Series had the best quality leather, woods, aluminums, you name it, every single surface. For $87,000, this is manual. You don't even have a climate zone back here. And these seats don't really feel all that comfortable. If I hadn't driven so many previous BMWs, I wouldn't be saying any of this. This is good, but it's far from what made BMW great. There's over 18 cubic feet of space in the trunk, which is really big in the midsize segment. You can fit a golf club bag right here nice and easily. It's really wide. It's also very deep. You might not be able to tell because it's so dark. And even though there's a battery which raises the floor in some instances in a lot of these cars, it doesn't have any issue here. It's very roomy. When you really put your foot in it, this car scoots. It's almost, not quite, as fast as the M5. It gives you a good feeling anyway. Over 480 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. There's a lot of weight on here with the batteries and the motors and all that. But once you put your foot in it, you forget about all that. The 550e packs a lot of power. Full electric power from a 19 kilowatt battery, a motor that's sandwiched between this twin-turbo inline-6 and the 8-speed automatic transmission. What's neat is that when you watch the digital instrument panel, you can actually see how much electric power you can actually engage. So right now, because roughly at let's say a 30% charge, I can go over 50% of the throttle without that motor even kicking in, without the gas engine, I should say. It's not the most seamless transition that you might be used to in other plug-in hybrids. Sometimes there's some jerkiness, a little bit of hesitation as it's shifting. Some of that is due to actually the gears shifting. In most plug-in hybrids that are out there, non-performance ones, let's say, they're using a CVT or a direct drive, so you don't feel any gear changes because there's no gears. But BMW has kept it the traditional way because this also is the same transmission that works on the 530i, the 540i, and also the M5. The EPA rates up to about 34 miles of all-electric driving, and new for 2026, BMW has updated the charger, so it goes from 7.4 kilowatts to 11 kilowatts on an AC outlet. That typically can be at your house or a level 2 station. I gotta say though that level 2 stations are becoming harder and harder to find versus the level 3 fast chargers. So unless you can charge at home, there's really no need to have a 550e. But as long as you do, it works well. This car does ride a bit stiff. There's no air suspension in here. And this one's riding with the M Sport package, so it doesn't actually change the suspension tune, but it does add beefier brakes with the blue calipers. But similar to the M5 Touring that I tested, you can watch that review, the 550e is kind of aloof. It really is. The steering is very numb. It's responsive, but you don't really know what's going on. The engine is pretty quiet, which for a luxury car I would say is a good thing. But this is not an M550 of the previous generations, so it's not meant to be the M Performance model. But I would like just some extra kick every now and again. But for smoothness, for quietness, this car definitely has it. I'm not sure it's really needed in terms of power versus a 540i, which has 375 horsepower with the same twin-turbo inline-six. Now, when you kick it into sport, and that awakens the six-cylinder engine, and now I'm getting the sound that I really want from a BMW. Nice and smooth. Again, cornering is great. It's flat. You know, it's all the typical hallmarks of BMW, lots of grip. There's Pirelli P0 all-season tires on this 5 Series, so it's a good setup. Of course it is. BMW always has that dialed down. It's just not all that fun. It's really not a fun car to drive. This is really an executive express, and it's great that you can drive over 30 miles just to the office, come back to the mall, wherever, charge up. It's rated at 25 mpg combined when it's running in hybrid mode, and 68 mpge is the electric efficiency equivalent when it's fully charged and you're running just off that battery. The sound is muted, but I will say it's good. Definitely that traditional BMW snarl under hard acceleration. I think the power of the 550e is right on point, but the polish isn't quite there. Transitions from electric to gas, and of course the hesitation when you're coming off the line, almost like the auto brake hold is on, but it's not. Those are things I would have expected that BMW would have gotten perfectly right, considering there's an i5 version of this. BMW's making fully electric cars and they drive really well. So this one, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it has all of the polish together. The M5 Touring also felt similar, not quite the same, but similar in that regard. It's good, but I think you could get away and save a lot of money with that 540i. It's got 375 horsepower. And you shouldn't forget the base 530i, which comes also with rear-wheel drive if you don't need xDrive. That's standard pretty much everywhere else, and it's optional on the 540i. But that 530's got a turbo inline-4 that's shared with the 3 Series. And it may seem like it's not making a lot of power, 255 horsepower, and even though this 5 Series is heavier than the last gen, but in my testing, I've really liked that engine. It overperforms and it gets great gas mileage easily, even in a car like this, in the 30s. And braking, another fine point, even with the brake regen, but right at the end, it's always a bit grabby, it lurches a bit, and right off the line too. You can never quite get it smooth, and it doesn't matter what driving mode you're in. I've just noticed that it kind of hangs on before it goes, almost like an auto hold function is on, but it's not right now. The 14.9-inch touchscreen can also be controlled with a rotary controller. There's a few shortcut buttons, but really, since it's so close to you, you want to use your fingers. You have a few options here. You can customize that, move the car around if you want. If you don't want to see the car, if you want to see what you're playing, that's pretty gigantic. If you want to see navigation at all time, you can do that. Weather, hello Connecticut. I prefer this. Now the climate controls are always over here. You have to do this for the seat heating and cooling and temperature, but if you want fan, you gotta go in here, and then you gotta go here to change that. This really could have been down here. What do you have here, for example? This is just touch sensitive for the air vent controls in terms of how much flow is there. And then down here, it's almost like they wanted to make this electronic, and at the last minute, the product planners were like, no, we can't have that. So now you have these little nubs which are hard to use, controlling vents up here. I don't like that at all, makes no sense. But at least all these things are constantly here at all times. This gets very confusing. So if you're trying to figure out what this is, make sure you're parked. And after you do that, you can add shortcuts. Anywhere you are in the system, for example, let's say if you just want to get to the seats, I programmed these. I've also programmed, for example, the ambient lighting so I can go straight to it. And as you see here, you can add anything you want here. That's what makes it so much better, but it's still just, honestly, a real burden. However, once you get used to it, everything in here is pretty impressive. The connectivity, the remote keys, the fact that if you're pulling up to a spot, it'll actually open the window, automated window, when you're at a specific GPS location. That's really cool. Also, interior cameras and exterior cameras that can be sent using live video straight to the BMW app. You can check on your car at all times. Customizable lighting, all the driving modes. When you press this, you gotta press down here. It changes everything in the car, including all the lighting. Switching the mode again. It'll open up the sunroof. It does all these different things. So it's a little bit overwhelming, but you do get used to how BMW is doing things in here, and it runs quickly. But really, so much of this stuff is extra complex. The instrument panel is a heck of a lot simpler than the main touchscreen. What you see here, that's tracing where we just were. It'll back out for you after you pulled in. One of the many really cool features that after you learn about it, pretty interesting. You cycle through some of the content here. You can change what's in the center. Again, not too much, but this, pretty cool. Augmented reality, similar to what Cadillac has, activating that forward camera. No night vision available on this car, but you can see driver assistance. Really detailed maps. Now we're in the middle of nowhere, so that's why there's only one single line. Your G meter, and if you want to change the layout to make it a little tighter, you can do that. But there's no regular analog controls. You're looking at angles and bracket looking things here. There's also a head-up display with lots of views. I'm not going to show you that because, well, you can't see it over my shoulder right now, but just like every BMW, very, very detailed. The 2026 BMW 5 Series starts at $61,000. There are 4 trims, not including the all-electric i5 or the performance M5 or M5 Touring. As tested with Destination, this 550e xDrive with a lot of options, $87,000. The competitors include the Audi A6, the Mercedes-Benz E-Class, and the Genesis G80. The 5 Series keeps its formula of a classic sports sedan, but in the process of upgrading to new technology, it has lost some of the flavor that once made it really great. Complicating things like the climate control, over-reliance on screens, making things just more complicated than they need to be, and also downgrading interior materials significantly from the last generation. Those are things, along with an increased price, that I don't think is good for BMW or any luxury sedan manufacturer in this day and age. The tech is great once you get used to it. It offers a lot of features, and the driving performance, like any BMW, is still exceptional. They've got that nailed down. But these days, there's a lot of choices, and in the mid-size luxury sedan segment, this would not be my first choice. But what do you think? We've reviewed all of them at CarGurus. We put them through their paces the entire years that these cars have been out. So go to the website, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.